6. It wasn't easy, but a win is a win, and the Warriors get back to their winning ways at Chase Center tonight. That's now 4 consecutive wins at home for the Golden State Warriors as they inch closer to 500 at home this season. They're now 5-6 at Chase Center, and they're now 10-11 overall this regular season. And this one was one that they had to have, and it was not pretty. In fact, it was mostly ugly for most of this game. And then what happened? They got a lot from Steph Curry, but it was the youngsters, the youth, that kind of willed them to victory in the second half. Both Moses Moody, he kept them in the game at times in the first half, in the third quarter. And then it was Jonathan Kuminga, who you just heard there from our Warriors broadcaster, of course, Tim Roy here on 95.7 The Game. He checked into the game for the first time after he did not play a single second in the first half. He checks in with about 4:45 to go in quarter number 3. Immediately a steal and a dunk. And that was just the beginning of what was a really, really good game. Really a good second half, almost a good quarter because he didn't play for nearly the first 3 quarters. But a really, really good stint for Jonathan Kuminga in his 16 minutes and 44 seconds of game time. 13 points, 6 of 6 shooting. He had a couple of steals as well. He had a block. He was really, really good, and he was the reason the Warriors got going. They trailed for the vast majority of this game, and if it wasn't for Jonathan Kuminga's energy, the Warriors very well could have lost this game to the lowly Portland Trail Blazers, who were playing without a couple of starters. DeAndre Ayton out. Robert Williams III has been out for a while now. Jeremy Grant out. They did get Anthony Simons back, one of their starting guards, and one of the better scorers in the NBA when he's fully right. It was his first game since the season opener for Portland. But even if this is a completely healthy Portland team, they don't have the veteran talent that the Golden State Warriors do. So the Warriors needed to win this game. Absolutely needed to win this game after blowing 2 20-plus point leads last week, including their last game out on the road in Los Angeles against the Clippers. Simply put, the Warriors absolutely had to have this game, and it looked like for a bit they might not. That was how ugly this was. There was a lot of bad shooting. Turnovers were a problem. The Warriors committed 17 turnovers overall. 8 turnovers in the first quarter. 8 of those 17 turnovers came in the first quarter. Portland got 11 points off turnovers in the first quarter. Really the only thing that kept Golden State in the game through the first half, maybe 2.5 quarters into the third quarter, was the free throw line. You look at the first half for the Golden State Warriors, they shot 34% from the field. They were 2 of 16 from the three-point line. That's about 12.5%. But they got to the line 19 times, and they made 16 of those 19. That's how ugly it was. The Warriors could not get anything to fall. And despite the fact that Portland wasn't really shooting much better, the Warriors were 34%. Portland was a tick over 35%. Now, they made a handful more three-pointers. They made 9 three-pointers in the first half, while the Warriors only made 2. But despite those relatively poor shooting numbers for Portland, they still led by 7 in San Francisco against the Golden State Warriors at half. That's how ugly of a first half it was, and it could have been a whole lot worse. Moses Moody, 12.5 first half minutes, 9 points. He made a 3. He had a handful of rebounds. 2 of them were offensive rebounds. He kept the Warriors in it at times in the first half. Stephen Curry was 1 for 8 from the field in the first half. Klay Thompson was 0 for 5 from the field, including 0 for 4 from deep in the first half. The fact that it was a 7-point lead for Portland at halftime, honestly, kind of a win for Golden State, because it could have easily been a whole lot worse. Down 7 at halftime, and then you kind of start figuring things out from the field in the third quarter. In the third quarter alone, Stephen Curry scored 17 points, was 5 of 6 from the field, made 3 three-pointers, 17 points by himself in that third quarter. But you still had a struggling Klay Thompson. He made his first field goal of the game in the third quarter, went 1 for 4 in the period. But Andrew Wiggins, not much in this game. Draymond Green was active, but you look at what the Warriors got from their wings. I mean, from Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins combined in this game, those two combined for 20 points on 6 of 25 shooting. Wiggins and Klay Thompson, 20 points on 6 of 25 shooting. So for Steve Kerr, the issue was the wing play. And what did he decide to do? He decided to go to Jonathan Kuminga, and boy, did it pay off. Kuminga checked in with 4 minutes and 45 seconds left in the third quarter, and he played just about every second the rest of the way. He was off the floor for 1 second towards the end of the game because Steve Kerr wanted to get his best free throw shooters in the game, but he came right back in for defense after that. So essentially, once he checked in with 4 minutes and 45 seconds left in the third quarter, he played the rest of the game, and he responded incredibly well. 13 points, did not miss from the field. He was 6 for 6 in those 13 with those 13 points in over 16 minutes, and he was a game best plus 13 in those 13 minutes. When he checked in, again with 4:45 left in the third quarter, the Warriors were down by 11, 77-66. The Warriors were down 11 when Kuminga checked in with 4:45 left in the third quarter. After he came into the game, the Warriors outscored Portland 44-29. 44-29 after Kuminga checked in. So just a great 16 and a half minutes from Jonathan Kuminga. And I think it begs the question, why was he not in the rotation in the first place? Now, I want to hear from you here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you on 95.7 The Game as we react to the Warriors' 110-106 win over the Portland Trail Blazers. Give me a call, 888-957-9570. That is the number. It's also the Comcast Business text line. Again, 888-957-9570. I'm also currently looking at the YouTube chat. Moko, I see you. TK, I see you. You can send me a message there on the YouTube chat, youtube.com/957thegame. But again, the number to call, 888-957-9570. Let's break this one down. Frustrating game for the most part for the Golden State Warriors, despite the fact that you came away with the win. I do think, though, there is a handful to be pleased with and excited by. Jonathan Kuminga responding to not a benching, but being out of the rotation. Steve Kerr then changing his mind and bringing him in, and Kuminga played great. Moses Moody had a really fantastic game as well. Moody in 26 minutes scored 12 points. He was in the positive in terms of plus-minus, which is saying something considering the majority of your starters were not in the positive. But Moses Moody, 5 of 10 from the field. He made a three-pointer, grabbed 4 rebounds, and he was in double figures with 12 points. And he was kind of that steadying force, I think, late in the first half when he made a couple of shots, hit a three-pointer, got a steal, and he kind of kept the Warriors in the game early. Stephen Curry then took over in the third quarter when he scored 17 of his 31 in that third quarter. And then I really think it was the energy of Jonathan Kuminga along with Stephen Curry continuing to hit a few shots in that fourth quarter, but it was Jonathan Kuminga's energy. And I think a really fair question of Steve Kerr, and I do have what he said on Jonathan Kuminga postgame. I'll paraphrase it for you in a moment. But I think a fair question before we even get into what Steve Kerr thinks about what Jonathan Kuminga did tonight is, why wasn't Kuminga planned to be in the rotation tonight? Because you look at what the Portland Trail Blazers have, and this feels to me on paper like a Jonathan Kuminga game, right? Like you have a young, athletic Portland team. I mean, their best player tonight, you could argue, was Shaedon Sharpe. The youngster, he played 42 minutes for the Portland Trail Blazers. He had 26 points, 10 of 18 from the field, made 4 three-pointers. He had a steal and an emphatic dunk in the first half. He's kind of similar body type athleticism to a Jonathan Kuminga. And generally, you got that kind of size and length and athleticism. You want to throw your size, length, and athleticism on him. And the Warriors really don't have much size, length, and athleticism. It is one of the major, I think, fallbacks of this roster. So my question for Steve Kerr, I think, would be, why was Jonathan Kuminga not in the rotation in the first place? I think it's a very, very, very fair question for Steve Kerr. And as I'm on the topic of questions for Steve Kerr, I can remind you that Steve Kerr is coming on 95.7 The Game tomorrow with Willard and Dibbs at 3 o'clock. So set your alarms. Steve Kerr tomorrow with Willard and Dibbs at 3 o'clock. You're going to want to tune in for that. I'm sure it's going to be a great conversation, as it always is. But I don't want to hear from Steve Kerr. Obviously, we know that he was great in this game, and we love the way that he responded and always staying ready and all of that. And 100%, I agree from Steve Kerr. But I feel like this was kind of a game for Jonathan Kuminga. Shaedon Sharpe, young athlete. Anthony Simons scored 28 points, a team high for Portland. That's not really a matchup for Jonathan Kuminga, but still young athleticism. Kamara, the other forward who played the 4 for Portland tonight. He's a similar body type to Jonathan Kuminga, long and athletic and quick. Now, he wasn't hurting the Warriors a ton offensively, only had 6 points, did have 13 rebounds. Maybe you feel that Jonathan Kuminga could have helped on the glass there against the Portland Trail Blazers. But this just seemed to me like a game for someone like Jonathan Kuminga. And the Warriors don't really have a lot of others like him. Andrew Wiggins is the most similar in terms of body type, length, athleticism. They both can jump out of the gym. But Andrew Wiggins had a really, really tough game. 9 points, 3 of 12 from the field. Only had 3 rebounds in this game. Did not have a rebound in the first half. And, you know, for Wiggins, for me, I think it's less about the scoring, less about the points, and it's more just about the effort. And I think a lot of times you can tell the effort based on that rebound number. 3 rebounds and 0 in the first half. One of those rebounds came because he missed an easy layup, and he just got the offensive rebound and put it back in. So when you pair what Portland has and what was hurting you, which was Shaedon Sharpe, the young wing athlete, can jump out of the gym, and you pair that with a bad night from Andrew Wiggins, it seems like Jonathan Kuminga is kind of the natural answer. And to Kerr's credit, he got there in the third quarter with 4:45 left. He brought him in, and the Warriors, as a result, kind of took off from there. Again, when Kuminga entered the game, the Warriors were down 77-66, down 11, with about 5 to go in the third quarter. In the 31 minutes of game time, in the 17 minutes of game time that followed, Kuminga did not play in the first 31, played basically all of the final 17. In those 17 minutes since he came into the game, the Warriors outscored Portland 44-29. So good decision to bring in Jonathan Kuminga. It certainly paid off. But I think it probably could have happened a little bit earlier. That would be my main point here from this game for the Golden State Warriors. All right, let's go to the phone lines here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy with you here for the next half hour or so as we react to the Warriors' 110-106 win over the Portland Trail Blazers. Up first is Filmo Mike. Filmo, I know you want to talk about Steve Kerr. What'd you think of this Warriors game tonight, Filmo?
Very sluggish. I don't know if it was because it was an impromptu game. Very sluggish. The crowd seemed hella dry. I don't be feeling that, especially being in San Francisco. And, you know, they always say that we, lazy or whatever the hell they have to say about us. But I don't like that. But the overall game, I just think this goes back to what people always harp about with Steve Kerr. 2-3 years ago, you had these rookies, right? Moody, Kuminga, whoever else it was. Play them a little bit, like you play them some so that they could play. You feel me? Like you could start to garner trust, but it's like Kerr never wants to do that, and so it's like you get situations where you seem like you said, it seems like this is a Kuminga game, but because he hasn't built up that trust and that camaraderie between, okay, I could bring Kuminga in there, or that trust factor. Moody has more trust in Moody than he does in Kuminga, but I think he did that. This started 3 years ago. Play your rookies, bro. Play your rookies, because when it comes to the time in March, April, and May, when you need them, they're weathered. You feel me? They have some veteran seasoning because you played them during the year. But when you don't play them during the year, and it's like you expect Jonathan Kuminga, he's 21, to be Otto Porter. You can't do that. You can't not play him. Keep him in a rotation, play his butt so that he can learn what to do. If you got him out of position, that's your fault as a coaching staff and in the front office. But come on, bro. Like, you got to start playing and trusting in youngsters so that in times when we do need to use them, we can trust them and use them, and they'll be effective.
Yeah, Filmo, I agree, and I think there's a lot of Warrior fans that feel the same exact way as you. I'm just looking at the YouTube chat right now, and I see a ton of people nodding in agreement. Also keeping an eye on the Comcast Business text line, 888-957-9570. I see text from the 510 about specifically the youth, and I think the Warriors needing to lean on that just a little bit. I also think something that Filmo Mike said about the crowd is interesting because it was a relatively low-key, kind of sleepy crowd for most of the game. And then things changed when Kuminga checked in. Kuminga checked in, immediately got a steal. It was off of some ball pressure from Stephen Curry, actually. Kuminga got the steal and had a breakaway dunk. And there was a shot that they showed on the broadcast on NBC Sports Bay Area. If you were watching at home on television with Fitz and Buki, you probably saw this when they were going to commercial break. I think the next break, whenever it was after that Kuminga steal and dunk when he checked in, there was a shot like from the length of the floor where you could see the play in the distance, but the other players on the Portland offensive half of the court, you could see all those players in the foreground and Kuminga streaking down the floor in the background for the dunk. And as Kuminga steals the ball and then goes up for the dunk, Steph Curry, like a very aggressive like celebration. He pumps his fist big time. And that was really the first time where you saw the crowd get going at all in the entire game. And then Steph Curry made a point to pump up the crowd. I think he had a three-pointer and an and one in rapid succession, either late in the third or early in the fourth. And on the and one, he kind of screams to the crowd to get them up and get them going. I don't think Steph Curry was frustrated with the crowd at all. I think he was more frustrated that the team was unable to get the crowd into the game at all. But it kind of felt, I mean, it was interesting because you don't really expect Steph Curry to have a reaction like that in a game against the Blazers. The Blazers coming into this game, 6-13, struggling big time. Now they have had some injuries that they've dealt with. I mentioned Anthony Simons. I think entering the season, most people would have said their best player, certainly their most, dynamic scorer, and kind of the franchise, Portland gave him the keys after they traded Damian Lillard. He's now only played in 2 games, the opener and tonight. He missed every game in between. And also Scoot Henderson, their young top 5 pick, he missed a handful of games as well. Now they're without Robert Williams III, who they acquired from Portland, and DeAndre Ayton missed this game tonight. Jeremy Grant missed this game tonight. So I say all that just to say this didn't feel like a game where the Warriors needed kind of to intrinsically get the crowd going. Like, it just felt like something they were going to be able to handle this team and get a win and kind of walk out of Chase Center with the W. But it took a little bit more effort than that. I thought that was interesting, the way that it felt like Steph Curry tried to purposefully fire up the crowd, and he kind of did it with his play. Again, 17 points in that third quarter. But it just kind of felt a little bit weird considering the opponent. And the Warriors kind of sleptwalked through this one for just a little bit. All right, give us a call. It's Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Grandy with you here on 95.7 The Game, reacting to this 110-106 Warriors win over the Portland Trail Blazers. 888-957-9570. That's the number to call. It's also the Comcast Business text line. I'm keeping an eye on that. The 609 says Kuminga should be getting more minutes than Moody going forward. I'm not sure I agree with that. Moody was really good as well. I think they both should be consistent mainstays in the rotation, 609. Let's see. 602 says Dub Nation demands JK get more playing time. 602, I think you're right. Basically, all of Dub Nation is in agreement with you. I will say where I think Steve Kerr deserves some credit, where I think we have seen some progress, is sticking with someone, and specifically the young guys, when they showed you a positive burst. Think back to last week. It was Tuesday in Sacramento. I was breaking it all down with you here on Warriors Wrap-Up that week as well, that game as well. The Warriors had that 24-point lead late in the first half. Things fell apart in the second half. And then Moses Moody, who wasn't in the rotation, was not going to play in that game. It was kind of a predetermined decision for Steve Kerr. He even admitted to it. He went up to Moses pregame before that game in Sacramento against the Kings and said, "Hey, Moses, I just want to let you know that the plan is to not play you today. Unless something happens, you're not going to play. You're not in the rotation today." I don't know exactly what that decision entails and how he came to that decision, but that was the decision. That was the plan. And then what happened? Chris Paul goes out in the first quarter. Gary Payton injures his calf. By the way, Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins back today for the first time after missing the last 2 games. But with those injuries against Sacramento, and then kind of a sluggish third quarter once again, Steve Kerr turned to Moses Moody. And Moses Moody played great. He played great in that second half in Sacramento. But what happened in the fourth quarter with, I think it was around 4 minutes left, Steve Kerr brought Andrew Wiggins, who was having a great game in that one, and Klay Thompson back into the game and took out Moses Moody. And then things went downhill from there. Klay missed a couple of shots down the stretch, and the Warriors ultimately lost on that tough running, banked-in shot by Malik Monk, and then the missed Steph Curry 3 at the buzzer, and the Warriors lost. And what did Steve Kerr later on say? In fact, he said it on this very station when he came on with Willard and Dibbs. I think it was the next day, on Wednesday. And he said, you know what? Thinking about it now, it was a mistake. I should have left Moses Moody in the game. Okay, now let's fast forward to tonight. It's not about Moody this time. Moody played a lot of minutes, and he was in the rotation the entire game. But Jonathan Kuminga was not planned to play at all tonight. Did not play the entire first half and touched the floor for the first time with 4 minutes and 45 seconds left in the third quarter. So not a part of the rotation at all, but Andrew Wiggins struggles. The Blazers' athletic wings really hurting the Warriors. Steve Kerr needs some juice, needs some athleticism, needs some energy, needs a spark. He's searching for anything. So what does he do? He goes against his original decision, which was Kuminga not being part of the rotation, and puts him in. And how does Kuminga respond? Exactly as Moody did against the Kings last week. He plays great. Kuminga balls out. Kuminga cutting, gets the alley-oop from Draymond Green, steps up defensively with a block and a dunk, and, is moving without the ball and is cutting and is slashing and doing all the things the Warriors want him to do. And how does Steve Kerr respond this time? Again, with in mind what Kerr did last week when it was the Moses Moody situation in Sacramento when he took him out of the game. But then he later admitted and realized his mistake. What does he do this time? He keeps Kuminga in the game. So maybe we're seeing a little bit of growth and change there from Steve Kerr, because in the past, he has generally done what he did last week in Sacramento with Moses Moody. And to Steve Kerr's credit, that's generally worked, because the veterans, before what's seeming like the last 3-4 weeks for the Golden State Warriors, the veterans hadn't really let him down. I can't really blame Steve Kerr for going back to the veterans. Steph Curry, obviously, untouchable. Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are probably both Hall of Famers. Andrew Wiggins was the second most important player on a championship team. Those are the guys who have helped you win a lot in the past. But I do think it's important to note that I think there was a little bit of a shift here for Steve Kerr tonight, and maybe that's something that does continue to change moving forward for the Golden State Warriors. Maybe this is the beginning of Steve Kerr realizing, hey, maybe these youngsters can have a bigger impact on winning than I previously thought. And by the way, I teased this a bit ago. I forgot to get to it, but Steve Kerr asked about Jonathan Kuminga post-game in the presser right after the game. When asked why he wasn't in the rotation, said, well, it's difficult to play 10 guys, so just a simple math problem for Jonathan Kuminga getting on the floor in this one. He said both Moses Moody and Brandon Podziemski have earned consistent minutes, which I think is fair. I would argue that they have. Part of why Moses Moody is in the rotation is because of what he did against Sacramento on the road last week, and then Steve Kerr's mistake of replacing him. So I don't think the answer to more Kuminga minutes is fewer Moody minutes. And Podziemski didn't have his best game today, but I think he's earned at least rotation minutes as well. And then Steve Kerr was asked about why he decided to bring him in. And he said the game called for Kuminga's athleticism to match with the youth and athleticism of the Trailblazers, which I agree with 100%. But I would just say I'm not so sure why it took 2.5 quarters to figure that one out. Because Shaedon Sharpe hurt the Warriors early. He had 10 points in the first 7 minutes, Shaedon Sharpe did. And he's kind of the one-for-one. Shaedon Sharpe is kind of the Blazers' Jonathan Kuminga. So maybe the answer was go to Kuminga a little bit earlier. And we're obviously nitpicking here because the Warriors did come up with a win, but when you see just how different the game looked and felt with Jonathan Kuminga on the floor, I think you can point to perhaps him needing to get out there a little bit earlier, and maybe this wouldn't have been so tight down the stretch. So Kuminga did not play at all in the first half. The Warriors shooting really, really struggled in the first half. And before I get to that, give me a call. I want to hear from you. What did you think about Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, the rotations, the minutes, how they were distributed tonight? Give me a call on Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you here on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. The YouTube chat is going crazy right now. I see you, Jimbo. I see a couple of others on there. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm going to butcher some of these names. Dirty Harry, I see you. The Traveling, couple of others. NBW, Doughboy. I see you all on YouTube. Keep them coming. I'll try to get to some of your comments on YouTube here on 95.7 The Game. But give me a call, 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line. But the Warriors really struggled to shoot the ball in this one. Stephen Curry, 1 for 8 from the field in the first half. Klay Thompson, 0 for 5 in the first half. Draymond Green, 2 for 5 in the first half. Andrew Wiggins, 2 for 8 in the first half. Those four, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, a combined 5 for 26 from the field in the first half. That's not good. The rest of the team in the first half, 10 for 18. So it really was the others that kept the Warriors in the game in the first half. And by the others, I really specifically mean Moses Moody. Moses Moody in the first half kept the Warriors in it. He was 4 for 6 from the field, 9 points in the first half. Dario Saric, despite turning the ball over 3 times, I think in like his first 5 minutes on the floor, he did kind of steady himself the rest of the way. He had 7 points in the first half. Saric on the night, he finished with 13 points off the bench. There were 6 Warriors in double figures, 3 starters, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Stephen Curry, along with Moody, Saric, and Jonathan Kuminga. But it was the others that kept the Warriors in the game in the first half, specifically Moses Moody, also Dario Saric. I think Draymond Green deserves a shout-out for his game tonight. 10 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, an assist shy of a triple-double. He was really good and active in this one for the Golden State Warriors. And then Stephen Curry took over in the third quarter. He had 17 points in the third quarter alone, and that was really when you kind of felt the tide turning a little bit. The Warriors in that quarter outscored Portland 34-31. That was kind of both teams' best scoring quarter in this game. But Stephen Curry, 17 points in the third, 5 of 6 from the field and 3 of 4 from downtown. And that's when you could feel him trying to not only will his team to victory, but will the crowd into the game. Because up to that point, you get to about midway through the third quarter, and there really wasn't a ton to be excited about. It was kind of a sleepy night inside of Chase Center. And then Steph Curry happened in the third quarter with kind of a classic Curry flurry. But even that wasn't enough to really pull away. I mean, he had 17 points in the period in the third quarter alone, but the deficit for the Warriors was 7 at halftime, and the Warriors only outscored Portland by 3 in the third. So they were down 7 at half, and then in a quarter where Curry scores 17 points, the Warriors are still down 4 going into the fourth quarter. So it was a Curry flurry, but you weren't really able to gain a ton of ground. It was kind of a strange quarter because normally you feel like when you get that kind of Curry quarter, that extended Curry flurry, you're looking at like a sometimes you would get, in the peak Warrior days, and it's not fair to compare this team to peak Warrior days, but you get a 17-point quarter from Curry. Normally you're outscoring your opponent like 38-21 in a quarter, and you just absolutely put the game away in the third quarter. I think unfair to draw that comparison, but Steph Curry wasn't enough. He wasn't able to do it by himself. Now, he was a big reason, of course, but the Warriors needed someone else to step up. And in the fourth quarter specifically, it was Jonathan Kuminga. Again, he checked in with 4:45 to go in the third quarter, and then he played really the rest of the game aside for like a second and a half when Klay Thompson got fouled when the Blazers were just trying to preserve clock. Kuminga came out because he's not one of the Warriors' 5 best free throw shooters, and he came right back in for defense after that. So essentially, he played the final 16:45 of the game. Take out like a second and a half there for that free throw, those 2 free throws for Klay Thompson. But he was on the floor during the best stretch of Warriors basketball in this game. And in the fourth quarter for the Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga played again every second except for one. 9 points in the fourth quarter alone, 4 of 4 from the field, had an assist, had a rebound, had a steal. Right when he checked into the game, he had a steal that led to a dunk. He was really good in this game, and the Warriors do not win it without him. So perhaps we see a similar change for the Golden State Warriors and for their rotations moving forward with Jonathan Kuminga, like we saw with Moses Moody from last week in Sacramento. Since then, Steve Kerr's been a man of his word. He said, I got to find a way to get Moses Moody consistent rotation minutes. And he has since then. Now, it's only been 3 games. You played the Clippers consecutive games, and now here at home tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers, and he's been a part of all of those games. Is something similar on deck for Jonathan Kuminga? Now, again, Steve Kerr did say today it's difficult. He said this postgame, it's difficult to play 10 guys, to find minutes for 10 guys. There's only so many minutes to go around. And if you're a Golden State Warriors fan, who are you taking minutes away from at this point in time? I think I know most people's answers. They'd probably be, I would guess most Warrior fans are saying Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins. And maybe specifically, if you're looking at how it went today, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was not very good today, but to be fair to Wiggins, off a 2-game absence, slammed his right index finger in a car door after the loss in Sacramento, missed both games against the Clippers, and returned today. Ended up playing, how many minutes did Wiggins get tonight in the starting lineup? 27 minutes and 25 seconds, 9 points, 3 of 12 from the field. Not his best game. Certainly not even close to his best game, but first game back after a couple of games off. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here on Warriors Wrap-Up. Mark Randy with you on 95.7 The Game, 888-957-9570. Up next is Mark in Millbrae. Mark, what's up? You're on with Grandy on Warriors Wrap-Up. What'd you think of Kuminga and the rest of the Warriors tonight, Mark?
Yeah, really impressed with JK. That's what they need out of him. I know he's been consistent, but I think Kerr really has no choice to play him, get him more minutes. Obviously, Moody's going to be a factor. Podziemski, if he's got the hot hand, he's going to get he should get the playing time as well. But I mean, he's a young guy, really rookie. He's going to be inconsistent. I don't think the one point of contention I have is with the way this Warriors team has played this year. Outside of Curry, I don't think anybody should expect big-time playing minutes. I think Curry's got to go with the hot hand. And like tonight, Kuminga, when he's going, you got to get him on the floor. It's just they're too inconsistent, everybody else, outside of Curry. I don't know what the hell is going on with Wiggins. He's really regressed since the title year. And this year, he's just fallen off the map. Hopefully, this guy really needs to get going. They gave him the back to be that second-hand man guy to Curry there, along with Klay and Draymond. So, I mean, they got the job done. Kuminga, hopefully, is really jump-off point for him tonight. And Curry, obviously, still playing at a high level. But you really needed all that to beat one of the worst teams in the league. And so it's not really a good sign. Warriors, in the fourth quarter this year, have been one of the worst teams. And I don't know, they've lost, 3 or 4 games at least because they couldn't finish teams. So what are your thoughts in terms of now the schedule is going to get tougher, and they're playing a lot more tough teams. And really, if Curry's not carrying the load here, do you think these other guys, and that means everybody outside of Curry, can really step their game up and get on a win streak? Because I don't think they could do what they did last year, where they can toil around all year, because this year they can't even beat teams at home, really. They're struggling to beat bad teams like Portland. And obviously on the road, you don't know what you're going to get. So what are your thoughts in terms of going forward, the identity of this team outside of Curry, because it's really, really not good, and the West is a lot tougher.
Yeah, good call, Mark, and good question. You are right. They do have a handful of tough games on the horizon. You go to Oklahoma City on Friday, at Phoenix on Tuesday, as talented as any team in the league. You go to the Clippers on Thursday. You just lost in Los Angeles to the Clippers earlier on Saturday, just last week, your last game played before tonight. So you've got a handful of tough games on the horizon, which is what made this game tonight so important. You needed to get a win against a poor Portland team, to put it lightly. And Mark was right. The Warriors have struggled at home. However, now they're 5-6 at home, and they've won 4 consecutive home games. So it seems like things are maybe turning around a little bit for the Warriors at home. However, now they're really struggling on the road. You look at their last, let's see here. Their last 1, 2, 3, 4 road games, they've lost them all. They've won their last 4 home games. They've lost their last 4 road games. So we'll see if the Warriors can kind of get going on the road while staying hot at home, even though it doesn't feel like they're hot, because they haven't really had a classic Warriors win at home in a while. I mean, the wins at home are against Houston back on the 20th of November, where you win by 5 points. You eked out a win against the worst team in the league, San Antonio, the worst team in the West. Detroit probably holds the claim of the worst team in the league. You eke out a win last Thursday against the Clippers at home, and then you sneak by Portland tonight by a final score of 110-106. So it's not really inspiring a ton of confidence, but at least you're getting wins in this one here tonight. All right, let's go to we got to hit a couple things for business here on Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game. We'll get to Brad on Warriors Wrap Up to round out the calls here in just a little bit. But first, we'll go to extending the three-point line. It was Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors.
Curry waiting. Shot clock down to 12. Holding. Thompson screens. Curry gets Simons with 7, with 6. Right side. Step back 3 off the dribble. Got it! It's good! Timeout Portland. And the Warriors lead by 4. 108-104. Clutch. Stephen Curry.
Yeah, clutch indeed. Tim Roy there on 95.7 The Game. Of course, that 3 made it a 4-point Warriors lead with 10 seconds left. The Blazers would get a bucket. Klay Thompson would then make a couple of free throws to seal the deal. But that came off of kind of an interesting moment. Andrew Wiggins driving with the Warriors up by 1, missed a tough layup. The Blazers got the rebound, and then Jonathan Kuminga stole an outlet pass. And the Warriors then got to Stephen Curry. He killed some clock and hit a tough three-pointer, a step-back 3 to put the Warriors in front by 4. That was enough for the Warriors to earn the victory. And that was extending the three-point line, brought to you by West Coast Men's Health, successfully treating men for ED and chronic pain. Visit westcoastmenshealth.com. All right, let's go to the phones, then we'll wrap up Warriors Wrap Up here in just a minute. Up next is Brad in Antioch. Brad, what's up? You're on Warriors Wrap Up with Grandy here on 95.7 The Game. What'd you think of that Warriors win tonight, Brad?
How we doing, Bob? Yeah, it was uninspirational, to say the least. I mean, you look at this game on paper, they're missing both their bigs on Portland with no Robert Williams III, no DeAndre Ayton, no Jeremy Grant. I mean, this was a game I honestly thought the Warriors were going to bounce back from that horrible loss to the Clippers and win this game by like 30 points going away. And, I mean, it literally went down to the last second. I don't know what they need to do to change the face of this team. If they need to get younger or they need to go get somebody and make a trade, which I really feel like they need to do to get maybe some size to the team. But they're just not. They're looking like a team that's going to be on the bubble trying to get into the playoffs this year. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, appreciate it, Brad. Good call. Yeah, there's a ton of Warrior fans. I'm seeing it all over the place on the YouTube chat, on the Comcast Business text line, 888-957-9570. There's a lot of trade talk. My question would be, what's the move? Because the Warriors are at a really difficult situation where obviously in order to make any sort of move, they need to shed a ton of money. And the only way you're going to get a player that you think could help this team is they're likely going to be making a lot of money. And you're going to have to attach a young asset to your high-priced veterans because, like, for example, and I'm just throwing his name out there. I'm not saying that I think he should be traded, but in the world where you try to trade Klay Thompson, you're not getting a young star in return for that. It's just not the way that the world works, that the league works for veterans. I'm seeing a lot on the YouTube chat on 95.7 The Game, youtube.com/95.7 The Game. I'm seeing a lot of Kuminga's gone. Kuminga's going to get traded. I'm just curious where that's coming from. Is it just simply because you need to attach someone to someone else to make the trade more enticing and to even out the money to get someone in return? Or do Warrior fans want to trade Jonathan Kuminga? After what he did tonight, he looked incredible. It seems like he could be a consistent piece for the Warriors going forward. KM Johnson on the YouTube chat asks the exact question that I'm asking. Where is this Kuminga trade talk coming from? And then Uncle Looney responds, it's just one guy saying it over and over. Well, I mean, I'm seeing it on Twitter. I'm seeing it on the Comcast business text line. I'm seeing it in a lot of places. And I don't really know where it's coming from. I don't know how you could see what Kuminga did tonight and your reaction, your takeaway be, oh, it's time to trade him. It seemed like he was really good tonight. It didn't seem like he was really good tonight. He was really good tonight. And if the Warriors get that kind of Jonathan Kuminga consistently moving forward, then maybe that's the boost that the Warriors need moving forward. I don't know. That's not on my radar at this point. I will say I think there's a good chance, based on what we saw Steve Kerr do with Moses Moody last week and the way Kuminga played tonight, I think there's a good chance that we now see Kuminga more consistently in the rotation. However, at the same time, we have seen Kuminga have really bad spells as well. And we'll see what this next spell means and means for him and what he does with it and how that affects Steve Kerr's rotations and the plan moving forward. But at this moment, I don't think that's even on the Golden State Warriors' radar here, as they are now 10-11 on the year. And they try to get back to 500 coming up on Friday as they travel to Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder. All right, a couple minutes left here on a Warriors wrap-up. Really quickly, did want to remind you that you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. All right, let's get to the hardest worker of the game, brought to you by Alameda County Sheriff's Office, who works hard to serve the community. Are you looking for a career in law enforcement? Learn more about job opportunities at joinacso.com. I think this one is a relatively easy one. I could give it to Stephen Curry because he led the way offensively for the Warriors, 31 points. Also had 5 rebounds, 4 turnovers, though, for Stephen Curry. A couple of them came very early in this game. He played a clean game after those first couple of minutes. But I got to give it to Jonathan Kuminga. He turned this game around for the Golden State Warriors in his 16 minutes and 44 seconds on the court, again, which were the final 16 minutes and 44 seconds of the game, essentially. He checked in for the first time with 4 minutes and 45 seconds left in the third quarter. He was great in those 16:44. 13 points, 6 of 6 from the field. Had a couple of steals. His first really moment on the court was a steal and a dunk. And it got Steph Curry fired up. It got the crowd fired up. And in those 16:44 on the court for Jonathan Kuminga, he was a game high plus 13. So Jonathan Kuminga, he's our hardest worker of the game tonight. He certainly deserved it. Brought to you by Alameda County Sheriff's Office. All right, that'll do it for Warriors Wrap-Up on this Wednesday evening. Thanks so much for tuning in all night long here on 95.7 The Game. Coming up next for the Golden State Warriors, again, they're in Oklahoma City on Friday. Tip-off is at 5. Coverage will begin at 4 on 95.7 The Game. Willard and Dibbs will have your Warriors live from 4 to 4:30. We'll get out to Oklahoma City at 4:30, tip-off at 5, and I'll be here with you in the evening for Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game on Friday night. I did want to remind you one more time, Steve Kerr coming up tomorrow at 3 with Willard and Dibbs. and I'm sure there'll be lots of questions about Jonathan Kuminga and his place in this Warriors rotation. Again, that's tomorrow. Steve Kerr with Willard and Dibbs at 3 here on 95.7 The Game. All right, for Chris O'Connell, for Sterling Bennett across the glass, my name is Mark Randy signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in to Warriors Wrap Up here on 95.7 The Game. Golden State knocks off Portland. Final score 110-106. They're back to 10-11 in the regular season, and they'll try to get back to 500 Friday in Oklahoma City. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great night here on 95.7 The Game.
Heart failure, carpal tunnel syndrome, shortness of breath, stomach issues, lower back pain. How does it all add up? If you have heart failure and any of those seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, it's time to talk with your cardiologist and get the full picture. They may add up to transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy. ATTR-CM is a rare and underdiagnosed disease. Recognize the signs and discuss them with your doctor soon. Learn more at connectwithyourheart.com. That's connectwithyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Lowe's knows how to save pros time and money. Right now, get up to 40% off vanities. And there's more. Get up to 50% off select tools and accessories from trusted top brands like DeWalt and Craftsman. Visit us in-store or online for more deals you can't beat. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. About 11/30 through 12/6. While supplies last, selection varies by location.
Gillette Intimate gives guys a gentle and easy shave on there. And around there. And even under there. Don't treat your groin like junk. Respect it with Gillette Intimate, the best a man can get. Buy now at a retailer near you.
Fill your game day cooler with the refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Smooth, real brewed tea with a 5% kick of alcohol. Look for the bright yellow cans. Twisted Tea. Keep it twisted.
Twisted Tea Brewing Company, Cincinnati, Ohio. Please drink responsibly.
For today's show and tell, I present my phone. It's made with glass and various metals I can't pronounce. It's powered by Xfinity Mobile, so my family saves big. Take a handout.
Colin, what are these?
I'm quizzing the class on the material.
Switch to Xfinity Mobile and save hundreds a year with the best price for 2 lines of unlimited. Just $30 a line a month. Visit Xfinity Mobile.